I'm Nathan.
I'm Samuel.
And we're the Spiritual Statesmen.
Welcome to episode 7.
Alright. So today I wanted to talk about something that we really didn't talk about before, like our why. Because everyone should have a why in their career. Not just in their career, in their life. Like what God has ordained you with, or what you do. Like there's always a reason why. You don't do things for no reason. So I wanted to ask you, and we can ask each other this and dive down, break into detail. Why do you want to do what you do? Well, first, what do you want to do? What's your main thing? You can go career-wise, your goals in life. Like, why do you want to do what you do?
Well, in the broad scope of things, I want to be an attorney, and while I'm still like contemplating of what type of attorney, it's definitely in order to serve people.
Okay.
Right, and so if I want to be the type of person that eventually serves people, there's got to be some why and like why I want to serve people. And I think there's multiple different factors for when it comes to serving people. I feel like one, it feels like it's not only like beneficial to me, like as a person, to be able to serve others and be able to go in that path, but also I think it's just what God has planned out for me, you know, like giving me these types of skills and talents to be able to go not only support myself, you know, my family, but also to support others, you know?
Okay. So you see yourself more of doing it for like a public service, like God has ordained you to be more of like someone who serves.
Yeah, someone who serves people who are, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like, you know, homeless people, just serving people of the community or people in that type of area who need help with that type of expertise.
Okay. So have you had that same mindset for, how long have you had that mindset? I
think that mindset came recently. I wanted to be an attorney for like 5 years now, but I feel like it only came in the past 1 or 2 years. And I think the ending of high school and like the start of college has really given me the idea of like I want to like not only use my talents and what I have to be able to serve other people, because it's something that I just enjoy. You know, I feel like I find pride and I find happiness when I'm serving other people rather than just doing my own thing, you know?
Okay. No, I think I'm the same way. So my plan is, I don't know your plan, obviously, is to go to college and go to law school. That's also my plan, to go to law school. Maybe to work as an attorney also, though that's not my main, and we've talked about this all the time, like that's not my main wanting. My main wanting is to get inside of the American government any way I can to basically do what you do, like serve the people just in that way.
Yeah, a different way.
I mean? And I know we always talk about it, it's a very bad rap politics gets. But I think that we relate it to Christianity, right? Everyone says Christianity is such a like a terrible religion and it's so hateful. And there are some Christians that are hateful, but you can't blame an imperfect people for a perfect God, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why my goal is to, not just in my career, is to be a light that God wants us, you know, God calls us to be. And that's gonna take a lot of time, but I know it sounds impossible to do what we want to do.
Yeah, a tall task. You know?
Yeah, it sounds damn near impossible, and we sound delusional, but the greatest people were always the most delusional ones.
Yeah, and I feel like my goal isn't necessarily to like, you know, rack up a number or like a stat of like how many people I help. It's more so like, I guess in a way, like bring up that culture of helping people in the right way, you know? And like, you know, I feel like there are always these types of like shows or things, you know, whether it's politics or law, or like people are always like crossing lines, or people are always like doing the wrong thing for the right reason, you know? And I feel like there is an argument to be made of sometimes you do the wrong thing for the right reason, or you do the right reason for the wrong thing, vice versa. I feel like there's always those types of point of views where people are willing to do an imperfect thing in order to do the right thing for someone in specific. And I feel like the right culture, whether it's in politics or in law, you know, and I guess those are intertwined, of like setting a culture of not only a Christian mindset, but doing the correct thing that other people in the past have set out for us. You know, like they built the system, you know, they built our federal government and our legal system. And while it's always supposed to change, right? Like it's always going to be amended in ways for better and for worse, but taking advantage of the system that we already have and doing good with that system.
And that's the thing. Even when the system is obviously imperfect, we have an imperfect system.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we'll ever have a perfect system. Like people, for example, racism. We brought that up. People are all going to continually say like racism is a big problem in this country. Well, yeah, crime is a big problem in this country too. Like because we're imperfect. That's how we just are as humans. Because we're flawed. To say that there's such thing as a perfect system it's wrong.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a perfect system, but I think that we can go back to the roots of what we learned as biblically, to try to form our constitution, our government like that. But we have strayed away from that a lot. You know?
Yeah. There's always some forms of, I guess this might be going towards like your side of like the politics and everything, but like there's so many different, like there's 3 branches, right? And each one is going to have some type of corrupt system. Within Congress, there's 2 other ones, and I feel like there's so many different types of power that can be drawn from each section. And no matter what, like even if we have a perfect Congress, or if we have a perfect Senate, there's always going to be an imperfect opposing point of view, branch, party, whatever, and I feel like it's just, again, we've talked about this previously, how it's like it's just impossible for everyone to agree on the same thing. But I feel like since we are founded under God, right, there is a specific line of where we should be at and where we shouldn't be at,
So I want to ask you, what was your opinion on like the separation of church and state? I never do you know that term, obviously?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think the separation of church and state has both positives and negatives.
But what is it like? Yeah, well, I agree with that. But what does it mean to you? Because I think there's a very big misconception of what it. I'll tell you what it really is. But what do you believe that the separation of church and state is?
I think from a general standpoint, it's more so towards the fact that the legal system or anything within law or anything written down on documents about our government should be separated from our religion or separated from specific religion in general.
So what you're saying is we should derive our morals not biblically, because that's what our law is. Our law should be.
No. I'm not saying that.
No.
I'm saying that's what it is.
So that's what you. I'm not. So that's what you think separation of church and state is.
That's
the term.
Yes.
Okay. So I learned this 2 years ago, doing some research on my own. The separation of church and state was written. Is written by Thomas Jefferson. And I don't know why we bring this up. I wanted to ask you, because that had really that's literally Christianity or just religion in general and politics. It was written by Thomas Jefferson in a book, and he was basically talking about it was a take on the Constitution, not what the Constitution said. You can check the Constitution; it doesn't say anywhere the separation of church and state. Obviously, there's the First Amendment, freedom of religion, right? You can believe whatever you want, and the freedom of exercise, the free exercise clause. But that does not mean that you separate the actual belief of Jesus Christ or any religion from the state. If that were the case, we can't say in God, like on our dollar bill, there can't be an in God we trust.
Again, it's all open to interpretation.
So that's the thing. It's an interpretive rule that people have derived as saying that's constitutional.
Yeah.
So that's where when I learned about that, that's where my fire for what I want to do really started. Putting myself out there and being a servant to my city, to my country.
But when it comes to separation of church and state, you're right. It is an interpretation, and I guess you can have whatever point of view that you want on it. But in the truth of the matter is that what I said earlier regarding deriving morals from whatever it is in law from separation, that is the interpretation that we've been given. Whether it's by Supreme Court or whatever, it's kind of similar to some other types of clauses or whatever. I have them off the top of my head that I totally forgot. Judicial review. And so I feel like that, like the words judicial review are in the Constitution. It's not anywhere to be found, but through Marbury v. Madison, that's what they got it from. And there's also so many things regarding the 14th Amendment. Whether it's Plessy v. Ferguson, Brown v. Board. There's so many interpretations, including the separation of church and state, that we've kind of derived from, whether it's dissenting opinions or concurring opinions, and not from the Constitution anymore.
So that's when we go back to our roots, and this is what I wanted to pull up. The Mayflower Compact. Have you read the Mayflower Compact?
Not word for word.
Okay. So you know what the Mayflower Compact is,
Yeah.
obviously. When the Pilgrims came to America, it was basically a covenant with God. Let me see if I can pull it up. But many people argue that this country wasn't founded on the basis of God. And that's actually the opposite, because if you read the Mayflower Compact, there's actually Bible verses on the Mayflower Compact. Let me see if I can pull it up. So there was one Bible verse. It was the principles of the Mayflower Compact. Isaiah 33:22. For the Lord is our judge. The Lord is our lawgiver. The Lord is our king. He will save us. So this kind of shows that they derive their laws and their morals from a higher power.
Yeah.
So when you take that higher power out of the laws and morals, what kind of laws and morals do you derive them from? Like, where do you derive them? What's your source?
I think the source is just our own brought up morals.
Right.
And I don't want to say that not necessarily made up, but they are derived off of what we've seen from previous, socialized cultures or other laws, other governments. And I would kind of argue, in a sense, or actually I do believe this, that a lot of our laws right now in America are derived from God. There are definitely some that aren't, but there are definitely some that have continuously been given, whether it's, the commandments that you see, or whether it's, all these different commands that God or Jesus has given, we can find them in our laws or in our legal system. Now, obviously, when it comes to like federal government and separation of powers and whatever, that's not specifically aligned in the Bible. But there's the gist and like the whole theory and concept of that moral Christian standpoint that I think is still weaving into our laws.
No, it's still there, but I would say that we're losing it.
Oh, no, yeah, I agree.
That's why I want to get in what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because, for example, Western society is falling. Like, it's becoming a laughingstock. It's been a laughingstock to other countries. America is quickly becoming a non-superpower, like it was a superpower before, obviously, after World War II. Kind of after World War One, but after World War II, we became a world superpower, and our currency was the most used currency.
Yeah.
But now our currency isn't even the most used currency in the world anymore. It's China. So to show our steady decline it's very sad, but many of us, people even our age or older, don't even understand that. Like, they don't even care. And I think, have you ever heard the notion, like the story of the frog in the boiling water? So basically, this is what I heard from someone. I said, he said America is like the frog. If you put a frog in boiling water, but you put the frog in the pot and heat it up, it's going to get hotter and hotter. Then the frog's not going to notice the water's getting hot until it boils and the frog dies. So the frog's in there getting comfortable, but it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter until he realizes, okay, it's too late and I'm already dead. He's already dead. And that's what the man said that's exactly what America's going through right now. We are the frog in boiling water. So at what point, and let me ask you this personally, what do you think, at what point do you think it's too late for us?
I think too late I don't think the United States as a people is synonymous with one falling thing or one thing that's is ruining us. I feel like there's multiple pots, and we are frogs in multiple different pots, and I feel like some of them have already been burned. And I feel like some of them are continuing to stay alive. And so when you look at that metaphor, I feel like I do understand where he's going, whoever said this. I do understand like the direction that he's going into, but I do feel like there's a little bit of like blinded like perception of how many pots there are and how many different things that we have. Like if you think of America as a whole and how we're boiling, I don't think we're boiling that much.
You don't think so?
I don't think so, because I think at the end of the day, the simple fact that we still have people checking each other keeps us not boiling. Right? But I do think that a lot of specific areas are already dead, like when it comes to, now I don't want to get into like different types of states, but I feel like California in and of itself as a state is really close to being boiled, and I feel like, and it's sad because we both live here, and there's so many ideals and morals. Like California is almost like the center or like the capital of like all of this horrible stuff, and so I feel like when it comes to our state, we've already been boiled, or really, really close to it.
But many people do say that California is the future of the other states. Like other states, even the Republican states or the states that really align with our ideals, they're gonna end up like California in maybe 10 to 15
which is
years.
scary.
And that is scary, and that's where you bring up the boiling water.
Yeah.
Maybe because our country right now is comfortable, but what about like in 10 to 15 years?
Yeah.
When they start, like there was even Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, even said he wrote a thing by 2030, you're not going to be able to buy automated gas vehicles in the state. They're going to be all all electric.
Yeah.
So like even stuff like that, like how do you even fight? Like you can't fight against that.
I think when you take into perspective, like, no, I know that's not Newsom's only thing, but like, like that specific example, like gas is supposed to run out by like 2050 or something, like there's a lot of other like environmental factors when it comes to politics. I feel like people don't exactly realize, like, when it comes to, like whether it's weather or whether it's different types of things, like, people tend to complain about like airplanes or something that happens. So a lot of times it is just environmental factors, and that's something that we can't really control. But I feel like when it comes to like written down laws, like in California, especially, after the overturn of Roe v. Wade, I feel like every state was given the opportunity to amend their own laws regarding abortion, and, California, I'm not too sure. It's up to birth, right? Abortion laws in California, or is it 30 weeks?
I don't remember. I was told.
I know it's something bad.
But obviously, it's probably like the max you can do. Obviously, that's California.
I think it's up until birth. I could be wrong. I did read somewhere like 30 weeks or something, but that's still really, really close,
really long time.
And like abortion isn't the only thing, and I feel like and I do think that LGBTQ plus community and like the laws regarding that is somewhat shifting. Like I know a lot of states, right? Like marriage between same sex is illegal, but practicing it and not getting married is fine, and so I feel like there's lots of loopholes around these laws that people are coming up with, and I think this is technically the way that we continue to progress in a good way, but also in a bad way. So
you said progress in a good way. I think that many people our age and our generation, they coined the term progressivism, right? Progressivism, back in the day in like the 1940s and 50s came with FDR, the New Deal, the Relief, Recovery, and Reform right after the Great Depression.
Yeah,
that was progressivism.
Yeah, even people in the generation have termed progressivism as like, I don't want to say bad, but it is not the same as what you're talking about.
But I would even claim, if you look at the Old Testament in the Bible, that we are digressing. Yeah, digressing. Yeah. We're digressing, and we're devolving from what we're called to be as humans. And
exactly.
Humans for God. Yeah. Even back in the day, do you know the god Baal? Mm-hmm. Baal was a god of child sacrifice and the sex god. Mm-hmm. Look at our freaking country, bro. Sex it's like we're having unplanned pregnancies like no tomorrow with young kids that aren't married, obviously, and that just leads to so many different factors with that younger generation coming up. They're not going to have any parent figures. We talked about this.
Yeah.
And it's a snowball effect. Yeah. And people are sacrificing their kids to Baal back in the like they did before. Abortion is the same thing, bro. It's child sacrifice. Yeah. Maybe they're not sacrificing it to a god to an extent, but they're sacrificing, if you think about it, to themselves, because they're serving themselves. Yeah. And serving yourself it's the modern day idol worship.
And I like how you brought up that frog metaphor earlier. I think your example of, Baal and, like the sex god and, all this stuff, I think it's a good example. A lot of people, I think America, this is like one specific pot that I was talking about earlier. Like this one pot is of, what was it that you said? Sex and what else?
Sex and child sacrifice.
Child sacrifice. And I feel like they kind of go hand in hand in a different way. We're not literally killing children, but I feel like we're sacrificing our child's minds when we expose them so early to this type of nasty thing.
Oh my gosh, in our schools.
And so I feel like this is one specific pot. And I know, like, I have a classmate of mine in college, and I'm not going to name him out because, this is a sensitive topic, but I know that they were raped. And so I feel like this, and they told me their story and everything, and they said that they didn't even feel like they had been raped. They didn't even know that they were, and that it felt normal. I feel like a lot of times, like our shows and, also I feel like our politics are kind of blinding what rape truly is.
Dude, rape fornication, having sex before marriage, it's all cheating on people, having infidelity. It's all being desensitized. And we've used this word before. It's being desensitized to our younger kids and younger generations. You look at Netflix and you look at Disney Plus, all these shows. There's shows that like show two dudes kissing or being like transgender. You're able to change your gender. Yeah. Like you lie to our kids with propaganda. Look at what Nazi Germany did with the SS, with Hitler Youth. Dude, that's the same exact thing, bro. But that's how you control the future. You control kids.
You're able to control. And again, this is what our modernized child sacrifice is. It's getting into the minds of our children and teaching them that, you know, this specific thing is okay. Whatever you want to do is okay. You know, and I know I am going to get a lot of, you know, backlash for this one, but I feel like telling our kids to do whatever you want to do, or I want you to be happy in your job in the future, or whatever. I think it's the right concept. You know, I think it's the right concept of teaching them to be independent and like doing what you want to do, right? Okay. I think the theory is correct, but I do think that the whole concept of I want you to do whatever you want, or I want you to just be happy, is completely stupid.
So I know exactly what you're saying. What you're saying is it's different from what we're talking about. Telling your kid, oh, go ahead and eat ice cream all day. Because my kid wants to eat ice cream. Yeah. That's different from saying, if you work hard, you can be whoever you want.
Exactly.
So that's the thing. If you let your kid eat ice cream all day, he's going to get diabetes. He's going to get fat. He's going to hurt himself. Yeah. Or she's going to hurt himself. We've got to be gender neutral here. But when you say you tell a kid to positively have you give him that independence or that freedom, and not force yourself on him, that's where they can grow, you know?
Yeah. And I think explaining why is also super important. Now, you know, we both haven't had kids, so I'm gonna speak from how I was brought up, you know? And, you know, the whole ice cream thing, like, I think there's always been a time in my life where I wanted more food or I wanted more of this thing. And, you know, my mom or dad said, no, you know, you can't. But I feel like from a young age, I was always taught that just no means no. And, like, whenever I was taught no, like, there isn't, like, as a child, I would, like, fight back or whatever. But, like, at the end of the day, like, there wasn't really, like, changing a mind if it was something really serious, you know? Yeah. And I feel like that's a huge, important thing that you got to teach somebody, you know, whether it's, and I feel like, low-key, a lot of our like my college peers don't understand this, you know, and I feel like there's a lot of times where they're taught something, whether it's in class or something, and they don't agree with it. That's okay. I think, especially at a public university where I am, you know, there's going to be teachers and professors who have opposing viewpoints with you.
And that's good. Like, that's exactly what should happen. But those teachers and professors can't be, like, punishing those kids for having differing opinions. Like I know you've heard countless stories of professors giving kids a bad grade because those kids.
I'm actually kind of experiencing right now.
Really?
I'll tell you this story. I'm currently in a class called the Sociology of Sexuality. Okay. Right. It's a GE requirement. I gotta take it, or ballet, you know. But I'm taking this one.
You should have done ballet. Bro.
That I don't want to see myself do ballet. I don't think you do either.
Fire! I want to see you in ballet, bro. That'd be fire.
But so the class isn't really about sex itself. It's more so about sexuality, and we're learning a whole different term of like how sex and sexuality are different. And we're so off topic, but that's fine. We can change the title or whatever. We're learning the difference that sex is one thing and sexuality is the other.
Okay, so what's the difference?
And I do agree with his total very, very broad scope. That sex itself is the gender identification of man or woman, right? Biologically, and also the act of sex, right? Like the actual act of it. Those are two different things, but they're both coined the term sex. And I do agree, I think he's right. You reference sex as the act and sex as the person, right? But then he leans more towards this other side of sexuality. And this is where I completely disagree with my professor. And we're writing these papers on it, and we're answering these questions. And now, while he hasn't blatantly, you know, and I'm not gonna say he's bad at all. You know, like he's openly said, if you disagree, write about it. You know, I will grade you normally. But part of me is also like, you know, he is a married man to another man.
Oh, okay.
For 20 years.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard.
And so I feel like a lot of times, just like whenever I have conversation with him, if I ever go to his office hours or whatever, there's always the thing in the back of my mind of we disagree, but it's not just that we disagree. We live completely different lives,
yeah.
you know? And so living different lives, that's okay. You know, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. You make your own choice. That's what God gave us, free will, right? But when I answer my questions or when I write my papers on things, there's always a different, you know, I'm almost at the point of where I'm writing things that I don't agree with myself.
Okay.
Just for a grade, you know.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna ask you this question actually.
Tell me.
So we're learning this thing about how this is more about fidelity and monogamous relationships, right? Now, a lot of times people are in normalized society. It's man and woman,
Yes.
and it's only those two. There's no 3. There's no 4. There's no and supposedly there is no going outside of it once you're married, right?
Yeah.
And so here's the point of view that my professor brought up, and I do understand where he's coming from. However, I think that we are a little bit, soul-wise, we're higher than animals, right?
Okay.
Animals, mammals, whatever, they don't follow that context.
Yeah.
I think only like 2 animals do. You
Yeah.
know, like almost none, like including monkeys, bonobos,
Yeah.
whatever. They don't.
Okay.
They do whatever they want.
Okay.
And so I think a lot of this new LGBTQ idea is, why don't we just follow the animals?
So is that what you're asking me?
Yes.
Okay, so let me answer this biblically,
Yeah.
because this was a very big thing, not just with LGBTQ, but with men in general. Many people even claim that are conservative, those red pill, the incels we were talking about a few videos ago. They claim that men were made for multiple women, but women weren't made for multiple men. So they try to pick and choose and try to bake their cake and eat it too. God made a man and woman for each other. Though many people use the biblical evidence of Solomon and David. Didn't Solomon have thousands of wives?
Yeah.
Didn't Solomon have all these concubines? Solomon lived a life of self-pleasure. And Solomon, once he lived a life of self-pleasure, he loved it for temporarily.
Yeah.
Yet those concubines and all of those wives that he had took him away from God. They literally introduced new religion to him, and he left God.
Yeah.
And it broke him down.
Yeah.
He was the story of Solomon.
Yeah.
He was the wisest man ever to live, yet the dumbest dude, because he literally had it all,
Yeah.
but he gave it away just for self-pleasure.
Yep.
So people try to say, well, even the wisest man had all these wives. The wisest man broke. He had everything. God gave him everything, yet he still broke. But what happened after? What happened after he wrote the book of Ecclesiastes? And Ecclesiastes, I don't know, have you ever read the book of Ecclesiastes? A very sad book. He said basically life is meaningless.
Yeah.
But in the end, he said life is meaningless, but the one thing that isn't meaningless is believing in the Lord my God. So as a man, you believe in the Lord your God. But I digress from that point. Basically, what I'm trying to say is men, if unchecked, will live a life of whatever they want to do. We like to reiterate what we were talking about a few minutes ago. Men will live whatever not just men, I'm talking about men in general, man and woman. They will do whatever they want to do if it feels good and right.
Yeah.
So for your professor and for the people in LGBTQ, right, they're attracted to,
their own self.
They're attracted to themselves.
Yeah.
So that is, being tempted isn't wrong. I understand people just can't really control it. Say, I can't really, I have an attraction with the same sex. I can't control it. Though that's not a sin. Being tempted, acting on that sin is the same thing.
Yeah, that's the difference.
So that's the thing. Like many people use that as their identity, their sexuality as their identity. They're gay. No one cares of who you want to have sex with. But that's the thing. If you want to live a life of morality, you want to be strong, you need to deny yourself daily, pick up your cross and follow him. Jesus Christ was tempted on the mountain he was fasted for 40 days. And towards the last days, right, Satan went on the mountain and tempted him. First with bread, then with control and power, then to be power, like control power of the cities, and then to be in power of the world.
Yeah.
And each time Jesus Christ said, "Begone, Satan," because he said, "Man does not live by bread alone, but by the word of God." And then second, he said, "You shall not tempt the Lord your God." So basically, he's using Scripture, the word of God, to fight against temptation, and that's what we should do as Christians. And that's the thing. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Saying, yeah. So that's where I see. Well, what do you think about what people say about multiple? We're not animals.
Yeah.
God gave us dominion over these animals.
Yeah.
We're different. We're in the image of God. All those animals are made in the image of God, obviously, but we are called to be different. it's obvious in the Bible that
Yeah.
we're not just monkeys.
Yeah.
We're something greater.
Exactly.
So that's why.
Yeah, and I do agree with you.
I know.
And, yeah, and so this was kind of like a question that I had that I had to answer, and that is specifically like my whole thought, and when it comes to, I'm gonna go back to the earlier, like the beginning point of like why I want to do what I want to do, right? I feel like when it comes to, especially now that I've experienced 2 quarters in college and I'm continuing to go, right? And I went to a Christian school my whole life, and now I'm in a public university with thousands of people, and it's a huge shift, and I'm watching myself in more like the words that I say. However, no matter what, I would argue for myself, because of this experience, I'm even more firmed in my faith because of it.
Really?
Yeah, and because this was a fear of mine, right? Like going to places, having friends that I have, that are great, but they're also not Christians, and I know this, right? And not me, like, putting any shame on them. It's just the fact that we are different. We are friends. We have the same interests, the same whatever, but our worldviews are somewhat different. Now you're not horrible. You're still the same person, but it's different point of view and a different community than I'm around. And I was kind of scared of like, am I gonna be almost like influence in a way where I'm starting to believe them, or am I going to be the one, not necessarily the influencer of drawing people in, but also staying firm in my faith, and I think after all of these months, and something struck out to me that I was told. One of my teammates on my team had told me, we were just randomly talking, and it got somewhat philosophical, not really. But they said this statement of labeling me as like, I know you're Christian, and it kind of made me happy, simply because I know, like, I don't ever go around, my team or whatever.
Say I'm Christian.
Yeah, but the fact that the way that I show myself and the way that I'm acting, and they are able to label me as that, it made me happier in the sense of, I know that what I'm doing is good. I know that I'm living a Christ-like life.
And that's amazing.
Yeah, because my attitude and the way that I portray myself is in line with Christ.
Yeah, I do, but dude, like, a few times in my life, there's been that point where that person said, well, I didn't know you were a Christian. Yeah. And that really struck something in my heart, saying, okay, that's when I have to take a step back and realize, what am I doing to show that I'm not a believer in Jesus Christ, where I should be 100% a follower. I should give all the glory to Him. That's what really checked me. And it wasn't until recently where I really took that pride factor out of my life and said, okay, you know what? I am nothing without you, Lord. I need to realize this, and I need you to humble me any way that I can. So that's where I really came from. That's like my part. I was struggling with that a lot, but I'm glad that you showed the fruits of the Spirit, dude. Like, that's what we should do as men, but as believers of God. We need to realize that we are called to something greater than the average man. That doesn't mean we're greater, but we're called to something greater. Yes. Because it's the hardest thing. It's the easiest thing to give your life to Jesus Christ, but it's the hardest thing to live it out. To live. Yeah. That's the thing. And that's the crappy part, but anything that's worth it isn't easy. Yeah, exactly. So you gotta work for it. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, dude, that's crazy about UCR. No, not UCI. UCI. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, dude, you're not like 20 minutes away from me. You're a few hours. But dude, even at all these public schools, man, it's so easy because I'm gonna be honest. I'm not speaking for you, but I'm stupid. Like, I haven't. My brain hasn't fully. Yeah, you agree with me being stupid? No, with me too. No, dude. Like, obviously, scientifically, our brain hasn't fully developed since 25. A year ago, I was even dumber than what I was now. And I know from next year and the year after, I'm gonna look at myself and like, dude, I'm so stupid. Yeah. Every single birthday that I have, I look back at where I was a year ago, and I think, wow. Like, it's a good thing that, obviously we were dumb back then, but it shows that we're growing still, and I have this thing every single year or I look back on what I did this whole age, and like, all the accomplishments, but also all the negatives, and like, would I still be doing those negatives now? No, because I've grown, I've matured, and I'm just learning, and I feel like everyone should be learning, even past 25, Of course. Yeah, you've always got to be continuing to evolve and continuing to just do better, from your experiences. I think that complacency, and I can speak from experience because there's been a few points in my life where I've gotten complacent, and with my walk with God, with being with sports, being physically active, like I've gotten complacent, and it's always led to me like screwing up.
Yeah.
Right. When I've been complacent with my walk with God, I messed up with girls and all that stuff, and I ended up like, you know, hurting myself because of it. So, and when I've been complacent with like, you know, working out, I would get out of shape. So it's the same exact thing. So I think as a man and as a believer in God, so a woman too, it doesn't matter. It's not really, I just keep saying as a man because we're both dudes.
Yeah.
We have to learn to not be complacent and always want to grow, always want to have that hunger to learn and that comes with being humble. And I struggled with being humble a lot because I was very prideful. So if you're prideful, the prideful man doesn't grow in his mind because he doesn't want to be condemned. He doesn't want to be criticized. Yeah. But when you humble yourself, you take that criticism wherever it comes from and you say, all right, what can I do to better myself? You know? Yeah. So. Yeah, but that's really interesting, man. That you told me about UCI public schools. Obviously, I go to California Baptist. Yeah, it's
different, but I'm sure there's still some of those experiences.
Believe it or not, dude, I have a sociology. That's why I smiled when you said sociology, because my sociology classes is very interesting too. Yeah. Right now they're teaching us, and it's a Christian school, mind you, about critical race theory. You know critical race theory, right? About implicit bias, and we as people all have a bias in our hearts about minorities, and that's kind of like dumbing it down. That's the real way of saying it, not the scientific way of saying it, like the BS way. Yeah. But I heard my teacher, my professor in sociology, she said, "Oh yeah, like in Florida, they want to ban sociology classes because they're too woke," and I started laughing because that's hilarious. Yeah. One, but two, it made me think, banning something like, you know, the Nazis burned books, and many people try to claim that's the same thing. When we, for example, want to take sex books out of our little kids' schools, people would even go as far as saying, "Oh, you're like suppressing information from them." Yeah. Well, do you think, and this is what I'm asking you, do you think that taking information that is immoral to what your family believes and what you believe, like, do you think that is wrong?
Yes.
Yes?
I think we should always have a viewpoint of the other side.
But even if that viewpoint can taint your opinion, or what your family, say you're a father, you're not a father yet, but say you have kids, and say those kids are in school young, kids are very impressionable, very stupid. We're stupid. We can learn, or it's like sponges, like we absorb all the information. Yeah. You're teaching your kid how to be a believer in Christ, Christian, lover of Jesus, lover of people, having compassion. The school teaches about sex, and they're only like 7 years old.
Okay, then it's different.
But that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I think we should always have a point of view of the other side, but only when it's appropriate. You know, when you're 7 years old, I don't think you should be learning about sex at all, to be honest. But you know, once you hit 10, 11, 12, you know, once you start experiencing your own impulses and your own thoughts, right? I think understanding the other point of view is good, but from the right people, right? I would rather, you know, when I have a child, teach my child about, you know, all of these things, all of these other worldviews, not by another teacher who's biased towards that side. You know, I think absorbing information and information alone is good, but information from a biased perspective might not always be.
But that's the thing, Samuel. There's no such thing as being unbiased. We're all human.
No, I'm saying biased of what I think is morally correct.
Yeah, I know. But like, even like, say you take your kid to a Christian teacher. Yeah. They're gonna be teaching Christian ideology or belief.
Yeah. It's still gonna be biased.
It's gonna be biased, but are you willing to say, okay, I'm gonna be biased because I believe in my God. I'm biased of my God, and that's where, or do you think that's hypocritical?
I think it is hypocritical. Okay. I do think it is, but I still think it's also right in my eyes. Okay. That it's right to teach my child, or right to teach, you know, at a Christian school, a Christian perspective. Exactly. You know, I think that type of hypocrisy is okay in the sense of, you know, you're teaching what you believe. But I don't think someone, especially without my knowing, should be teaching my child something that I don't personally agree with.
In my city of Fontana, that's what they're actually doing. I don't know if I've told you, but they're trying to, without the parents knowing, they're trying to make a school a safe space. so the children can, if they come out as gay or transgender, the teachers can't tell the parents.
Yeah,
can't tell the parents.
I've heard about this.
You can't tell the parents, and you also, the teachers are obligated to, if the child's not feeling safe, not being accepted by the parents, the teacher can literally call child services and the child can be taken from the parents.
And I think that argument is so dumb in the sense of when you think about other statistics, right? And this is going to be our last topic for now, but I think I get what they're trying to do with this act, and is it an act, a law, a proposal?
I think it was a proposed bill in California.
Okay.
But
I think this bill is absolutely ridiculous.
But Fontana was doing it at a smaller level, at a smaller type of thing with the school.
Yeah. Let's talk about that specifically then, And so when you think of, let's take the topic of suicide, right? Okay. Every school, it should be a law. I'm pretty sure it is, where if a teacher or a professor or anyone is aware of a child's suicidal thoughts, you're obligated to tell someone, a parent, a guardian.
I've been using that argument for years.
Yeah, you're obligated to.
Exactly.
Now, when you look at the statistic, I'm pretty sure it's like 1 in 4 people. That's 25% of the LGBT community have attempted or have those thoughts. So basically, you're, in a sense, dumbing it down to the sense of, okay, so now we're going to say that you can keep, we are now going to keep 25% of suicidal thoughts private.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think the bigger picture is then? Since we're concluding, what's the bigger picture? Why do our legislators do that? Do you think they have a hidden agenda? What do you think?
I don't think it's a hidden agenda. I think it's a shifted worldview. I think it's the fact that
wrapping it up to the beginning.
A lot of people in politics, and this might not be more towards my law. This is all legal, but towards politics side, right? Like a lot of people already in power, or whether it's local level, state level, government, they have a shifted worldview to where they think this is right.
Yes,
that's on them. That they think it's correct, and that's why they advertise, "I'm going to do good for you." But is that good? Really good? It's good in their eyes,
Dude, And this is what our title should be: shifted worldview, because we literally talked about this with Solomon. But that's every man doing what you want to do because it feels right.
Shifts your worldview.
It shifts your worldview.
Yep.
And that's what our politicians do. That's what our people do in this country. That's why our country's failing.
Yep.
That's the frog in the boiling water. But not just for the country, for humanity, when Jesus Christ comes back.
Yep.
Because when Jesus Christ comes back, that the water's boiled already. Yep. It's too late. That's the only time where it's really too late.
Yeah.
When either you die or Jesus Christ comes back.
Yep.
And I was thinking in my head, like, damn, like this podcast, bro, we're really digressing a lot, and we're not. Everything that we said inadvertently had something to do with.
Came back to our topic.
And it came back, and that's perfect.
Yeah.
So to say that when men do, wrap it up, men do what they want to do, men always fail. But men do what they're supposed to do, and what they're called to do by God, you'll never fail.
Yeah, exactly.
So, that was fire, bro. That was fire.
All right.
But thank you guys so much for watching.
Yeah. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.